got a guy named Brody here. He's going to provide his views on being a young Indigenous business person with a view to large-scale renewables.
No, yes, Jemwana. Hello, and I hope you all are doing well. I'm here to tell you a story that my mom likes to tell about me. So when I was 8 years old, I set up a lemonade stand on my road. And I set up a little teeny tiny solar-powered phone charging station. Yeah, my parents laugh about how I've always been one to dream big, and I guess that's true. But I don't know, truth be told, I think I was always inspired by the way my community had dreamed small. Right? See, I was born in 2019 in a First Nation on Vancouver Island. And by then, my community was already getting its own power through its own solar and wind installations and then selling power back to the BC grid. But, now I'm a filmmaker, just about to finish my degree. Yeah. And, I want to start my own digital animation company. One that specializes in making films written in Indigenous languages, right? Yeah, like we'll use augmented reality to help bring these stories into people's lives in new and really cool ways, And also, I want to make sure it starts out on a sustainable foundation, okay? Sustainable in every way. And it has to be cost-effective because, let's be honest. I'm a 21-year-old entrepreneur. But it also has to respect the path that my community has forged in renewable energy. And these days, the government subsidies just aren't there for small-scale rooftop solar panels. These little solutions just haven't been able to compete since the battery technology got better and large-scale renewables became dispatchable. Did you know that there's even a whole network of batteries that will pay the homeowner when they draw off of their home batteries as needed? And, they've turned the water into energy storage, using it to pump the water up whenever there's excess from solar and wind, and using it to power the hydro generators when there isn't. I can get my power from the grid and still feel pretty confident that it'll be clean, renewable energy for much less money than anything I can afford or build myself. But I don't know, there's just something about being less reliant on the grid that I like. It's the way I grew up. At least that way I have more control, unlike with the massive grid with its dams and huge wind farms. And, so far, climate change hasn't had any ill effects on the hydropower in BC, but that's all about to change. By the year 2050, just 10 years from now, the melting ice fields could mean a totally different landscape for hydroelectricity. The era of cheap prices could be over soon. Right? Every year there are just more and more storm outages, and I need reliable power over the long term, no matter what changes. So I guess getting your power off the grid is the most economically sound option. But there is a way that I can take back more control, right? My company's energy use. Because there are so many technologies out there that can help me limit my energy usage and also help me find efficiencies in even the tiniest ways. Those tiny ways add up. So, I don't know, getting my power off the grid is the most economically sound option these days. And it makes sense, right, to use information technology to increase efficiency. I don't know, maybe I'll set up my own local network with its own energy demand analysis. Yeah, just like I did when I set up my solar panels with my lemonade stand. Ayos chok.
I'd like to ask Ray Robinson to the stage. Ray Robinson is currently the president and CEO of St. John Energy, municipally owned electric utility based in St. John, New Brunswick. An electrical engineer with over 35 years of executive and management experience in electrical utilities throughout North America and the Caribbean, with demonstrated capabilities in major infrastructure developments, project management, asset management, and operational transformation. So when you hear a story like that, when you have Brody, a young Indigenous filmmaker out in BC, who is living in a world, a Canada, that has really gone into large-scale renewables, that we aren't there yet. But how do we get there from 2019?
Well, I think we're on pace to being there. If you look around Canada right now and some of the recent wind developments, particularly out in Western Canada, wind generation today is the lowest cost of new generation in Canada. And that price continues to go down. At the same time, the pricing of battery storage continues to go down dramatically, as well as the capabilities continue to improve. Solar panels, they're as well going down pretty dramatically over time. So all of a sudden, when those forms of generation, albeit intermittent forms of renewable, when they're matched up with battery or storage, all of a sudden that then transforms renewables into dispatchable. Then you've got the true low cost, and economics trumps everything at that point in time. And so we're on that trajectory, and it's a pretty exciting future. And since it is really an economic decision at the end of the day in that scenario, the other thing that factors in, it's important to factor in, is that for that to play out, the utilities have to remain a trusted source of supply. And so matching intermittent renewables with storage and interconnecting various forms of generation. And also, I'd also say to an extent, end-use devices as well. So having all of those elements in an interoperable configuration is that future.
With all of these scenarios so far tonight, we've seen some different parts of the country, and we're going to talk about one more next. Do you think we're all going to be in lockstep as a country, that all the regions are going to be the same, or is it possible that we could go in different directions depending on the region and have different needs?
That's a good question, and I think it's reasonable to expect that there likely would be different scenarios playing out depending on which region you're talking about. Again, depending on the extent of the resources that are available. Even today, I think we're in different scenarios. Those provinces that have vast amount of hydro resource with storage capability, they're in a much different space than those other provinces that are having today to rely upon much more heavily on emitting forms of energy.
All right, thank you very much, Ray Robinson. Thanks.